Music Connection Magazine. It's your boy X Rated. If you haven't checked it out, man, check it out. It's beautiful. It's legendary. Been around a minute, man. Get a bar.
Alright, so we're right here with X Rated, Northern California's own. Thanks for rocking with us at Music Connection Magazine.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we'll just jump right into it. Take us back to the beginning. And talk to us about coming up in Sacramento during the hip hop era and how you became one of the pillars to put Northern California rap music on the map.
Wow. So for me, my mom is the one who kind of got me going when it comes to hip hop. My mom, she was a DJ, and Sugar Brown, they called her Sugar Brown, and she played everything. So there was all of the Zulu stuff, Planet Rock, Midnight Star, Atlantic Star. The first time I heard Curtis Blow the Breaks, it was my mom. And then my mom's cousins, my second cousins, her first cousins, were the ones who were playing Invasion of the Flat Booty Bitches by Too Short, Ice-T's early stuff, Kool Moe Dee, and that's what got me started. So I've always had a life full of music, even before it was just pure hip hop. George Benson in the house. It's just always, we always had music going, and so I was a junkie. And growing up on the South Side, the music was everywhere and everything, and here comes Run DMC, and you hear all the cars, dumb girl, clock that, boom, 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 just bumping everywhere, or LL Cool J dropping, and here comes Rakim. So, man, that time, back when you had physical products, like the first album I ever bought with my own money was LL Cool J's Bigger and Deffer. I'm just a huge LL fan, and I remember walking all the way down Florin Road and going to Tower Records and getting the tape, you know what I mean? And walking all the way back to the hood and just bumping it over and over for hours, and it's one of my fondest memories from my childhood. So that stuff informed what I ended up doing when I finally got in the studio.
Okay. Yeah. And then it was like, what, early teens when you just got in?
Involved? Yeah, rhyming was normal, they would pop the trunk, the big homie pop the trunk, and you spit some bars to the Parliament, you know what I mean, rapping on the Gap Band beats or whatever, and I used to bang on the locker, spit bars, bang on the table, juvenile hall, spitting bars. So it was like there was this build up from it just being something we do because it's the culture. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to explain to people what I see now, where the culture of being immersed in it, and it's other aspects of the culture too, but from the breaking and you had the DJs and the MCs and the graffiti, the people who were drawing, the fashion, it was a lifestyle. And so it was normal for me to just be busting rhymes, but I remember something about hearing Ice Cube, man. Something about hearing Ice Cube that spoke to me individually as a baby. Everybody else felt like, LL always felt like LL Cool J to me. Mm-hmm. And then Ice Cube showed up and he looked like the homie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. Like we was wearing that shit. Mm-hmm. It was us. Right. And so he just had a lock on me. And so I started writing to Dr. Dre instrumentals, Gangsta, and that ended up really being what became, it's starting to be a real professional thing for me. So I started having songs because I was writing to, Dr. Dre instrumentals and Ice Cube songs, Mm-hmm. And some of the homies, I started making tapes. I remember, some of the best things and some of the worst things that ever came into my life has been regarding gangbanging, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's the brotherhood of it, the homies. I used to make tapes with one of the homies that had a bunch of studio equipment. His mom was trying to keep him out of trouble. His father, he had two good parents. He was a Flat Dog Crip. He from Flat Dog Crip hood, but he was a good kid. He in a mad city. So he's this good kid. He got all this stuff, and I'm popping up at his house, and we busting out songs, and he mixing them, and we doing the best we can, and passing that out to the homies. So they started telling me I could do it. They was like, hey man, you as good as anybody, off of those tapes. And then I think in December of 1996, It's December 17th. So we were having I remember that because we were having a party for my grandmother's death day. So she passed away in 86. So it's 1990 and we're doing a death day. Everybody's there eating food, we got the music bumping, and we just celebrating her memory, telling stories about her. And my cousin Nicole came in and she brought Six with her. So 666, him and Lynch, you know, tight. And so you got Strobe Light and Ice Cold back in the day. They was the two popular breakers, rappers. And so I got all these rhymes on the walls, thumbtacks, like how people put up their magazines, their comic books and shit.
Right.
And Six is reading all this shit and he's like, who wrote this? Like, who wrote that? I was like, I did. So I would put them all over the walls and lines and I would just read them. And that was a part of my learning process. I still kind of do the same thing now. Even if I want to write something and I want it to be more spontaneous, I put a piece of paper taped on the wall and just get it in while the beat is bumping and catch the ideas while they coming. It's this immediate energy. Right. So Six sees all these rhymes and then my boy Tantrum played him some beats and shit and played him some of our songs. And he was like, man, I want you to meet my brother. So the next day, he walks in to Percy's, meets us over there, and he walks in with Lynch. So Lynch is like 6 or 7 years older than me. I'm a kid, you know. These dudes 22, got cars and moving around and shit. We had cars too, but they was doing it different. Right. They was older than us, and so I'm trafficking in a different world. But I know, like, it's Kevin. You know what I mean? Everybody know who Kevin is. He's legendary for like backflipping and all that. Lynch was a savage beast, and so we spit rhymes all night. We record some stuff and it just kind of vibing together. We ciphered pretty much for hours, and it was like, man, if you could pay for your studio time, we could put you somewhere to really make your music, to make it for real. And I was like, shit, I'll pay for my shit. So I went to see the big homie, a couple of the big homies. I went to Donkey Kong from PJ's. He was used to drive his sack from LA. I went to see the homeboy, really Pee Wee. I went and talked to my big homeboy, Big Ken. And Big Ken is the one who, Big Ken hit me with a bag, you know what I mean? Right. So like, I go grind, and I build my money up, and I hey man, I'm ready to go. And they was like, you sure? I'm like, book it. Right. So they booked 6 hours at a real studio in Harmonic C Street, and we pull up, and they got all my stuff loaded, and then sat down with the engineer, and they just started bringing my real music to life. In about 4 hours, I made about 6 songs in 4 hours, and gave Lynch the last 2 hours of my session. So he would do, I booked 6 hours, use 4 hours, and essentially pay him by giving him the last 2 hours of the studio time. And that was kind of how we started our working relationship together. And he just was like, man, you know, you can do this shit. He became a real champion for me as a kid. Yeah.
So, and this, you said this is early 90s, right?
Yeah, this is shit. That December 17th, by December 18th, 19th, we were in the studio. We were in the studio. Okay. So this is happening fast. By between meeting up on the day after my party, we end up, I'd say by mid-January, we actually have a tape. That's how fast we were moving. Okay. I had a 6-song EP within 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. This time, you know, Bay Area is already popping. Too Short, right? E40.
Yeah, 40 was on his way. 40 was on his way. Like I say about like right around, I'd say 91, late 91, 40 was cooking, like Mr. Flamboyant. That stuff was in the streets. Carlos Rossi. Right. Mailman didn't happen for a couple years later. But at this time, like I knew that the ones who was cooking to me was Richie Rich. Richie Rich was cooking at 415. I remember Don't Do It being this song. I actually got to tell him that recently, but there's that song Don't Do It just fucked me up. You know, Hitler was a killer, Frank Ward was a Mac, Felix Mitchell made money in 20G stack, and Moses split the sea, King Tut wore gold, and Jesus is the king. So the story is told like I'm boom, clap, boom, 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 boom. I was listening to that shit, it give me goosebumps. Yeah. And as a kid, I was like, oh, hell yeah. And that was, again, somebody who, right up the street in Oakland, you know, Sacramento, the Valley. Well, for me, there's no way around it. There's no circumstance where I'm capable of not believing that there's an energy, and I pray for it. I pray for my son by name. He's at the high. He's on a slide right now with his brother and sister.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Pray for him by name, and he gave him to me, and then he gave me another one. You know,
Dope.
50 years old
Dope.
with two under 19 months. Like, that's God, man. Can't nobody tell me. So they could call it what they want to, but I feel like ultimately God is the key to everything that's happened in my life. I believe that when I started operating from a place of hope and I started picking Job apart so I could understand it a little bit better, it helped me get a grasp on my experience. You know, there came a day. What does it say? There was a man in the land of Ood who sinned not and was perfect in the sight of God. Like, for me to remember that it started that way, because I used to be mad. What kind of leader would let all that happen to his best soldier? But I'm like, it just told us that he didn't do nothing wrong.
Right.
And then, you know, there came a day when the angels congregated in heaven and Satan came among them, and God asked him, you know, where you come from? That whole conversation about if you took all this stuff, he'll curse you. And he said, well, you can't hurt him. To go do your best, though. Let's find out. Yeah, but what it taught me was, first of all, Satan can't do nothing to me if God don't let him. So if I'm having some hardships and I feel like he active, he got permission to do that.
Right.
And now Job also taught me there might be a bet. God might have said, I bet he won't. Like, I want to win.
Right.
I want to win the bet, bro.
Right. Yeah.
If he bet on me, I want to win.
There we go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bet he won't.
Right.
I bet he won't deny me. I bet you he do remember me. I bet. So I try to win the bets. That's my key, and I want everybody else to do it. So it does bleed into my music because I can't do nothing about it. I believe it. I just believe it.
I like that perspective. You know what I mean? Like, they bet on you that you know, Satan won't, you know what I'm saying, make you do what he wants you to do. You know what I mean? That's dope.
Yeah, he said he will curse you to your face. Let me take all his stuff. You put a hedge around it. I bet you he'll curse you to your face if I take his stuff. And he said, no, he won't. I bet you he won't.
Right.
And after he did all that, it said again, there came a day when the sons of God congregated in heaven and Satan came among them. Imagine Gabriel and Michael and everybody in the room, and you just went and killed Job's kids and burnt up his land. And everybody in there quiet, and he walked in there, and Job's response was to fall to his face and say, God gives and he taketh away. God is the greatest. That was his answer. So now when he walked back in that room and everybody on fire, they want to do something to him. And he said, what did God ask him?
Yeah, I forgot that part. But
He said, have you considered my servant Job?
oh yeah, that's right.
He asked him again because he won the bet.
Yeah.
That was real G.
Yeah.
That was real G.
Yeah.
So I started understanding that there's the ultimate G. The big homie is a real deal. It's the real deal.
Right.
And I love that second when he came back in there, and he still had an excuse. Oh, it's because you didn't let me touch him.
Right.
So now, okay, you could touch him, but you can't kill him.
Right.
So what do we got to remember when it get hectic, when it get ugly, when we don't feel well, when we're not sure?
Just be still, you know.
Win the bet.
Yeah.
Win the bet.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's dope. Let's see here. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, like New X, Strange Music X, you know, that you said the growth from the Actress's days to now.
Yeah, man. I think the difference between then and now is I unintentionally inspire people. I unintentionally influence people, and now I want intent to be the key to every move I make in my life now. I want to intentionally do everything that I do. All of it. And so I think that's what the New X, the core of me now, is to be deliberate in my steps, intentional with my moves, and to have good intent when I'm interacting, no matter how something goes, and to keep faith that if it doesn't go the way I wanted it, it was because it wasn't supposed to. You know, and that was that. And keep it moving and make sure that I'm telling other people what I went through from an honest place so they can apply whatever sticks, whatever matters. Like, hear it all and keep the stuff that matters, you know? Maybe I'm just the water, maybe I'm the seed, maybe I'm the dirt. You never know what you are in someone else's stage of growth. There's a lot of people who poured into me that maybe weren't the one that made me sprout right then. That last drop of water came from a different source. But I remember the person that flipped the third, like, man, that dude tried to tell me this. Like, man, I remember my aunt told me this. I remember, you remember later. So I just want to be somebody that people remember who tried to tell them. I think that's dope.
Dope. Okay. So I mean, speaking of strange music, I know Tech's always been down with the West Coast. How did you and him connect to get you on Strange?
I went to Kansas City to do a show with Lynch, and when I got there, you know, everybody's like, man, Tech is trying to get to you. All the little homies kept calling. So I'm like, all right, like, whatever. But Triz called, and I love Triz. I trust Triz. So I was like, what's up? He was like, yeah, Tech want to see you. Where you gonna eat? And I told him where I was going. He was like, I'll be there at 15. Tech will be there in 30. I go to the restaurant, and we chilling. Got my boys with me, and sure enough, Triz walked through the door. A little while later, Tech walked through the door. We had a conversation. You know, him and Lynch had an issue, and so we were working on resolving that. And I kind of had jumped in that a little bit. Just not really their thing, but more so anybody that was cheering for it. I was like, you know, stay out their business. They doing that, and Tech respected that I had done that. And so, yeah, we did the show. We had that meal. He put me on the phone with Travis. Travis wanted to see me that Monday. And so I changed some plans around, make sure I could stay there that Monday. And the next day we went to a big meal. Tech had us all at the table. You know, he brought his family, and turned out his son is a huge fan of me and Lynch and wanted to meet us. So Tech and his son and all his family, we all broke bread, and him and Lynch had a chance to talk, you know, said they love each other, got a hug. And Tech just was like, man, I really appreciate that you did that. And I'm like, man, I ain't do nothing. I'm just a dude standing here, dog. Like, we good. And you know, we went about our days and did what we was doing. Went to see Trav Monday. He toured the facility. We spent 4 hours touring Strange Music, and I still didn't see it all. So that's you know what I mean?
Right.
4 hours with Travis. Going from building to building, from building to building, and I still didn't see it all that day. It's that big. And so, like, I'm like, okay, Tech's rehearsing, me and Trav are kind of doing our thing, you know. And so I jump on the plane, I fly back to Vegas. Tech flies to Vegas. I'm able, you know, I grab him. Actually, the homies called me. They like, man, because everybody saw me and Tech together and all the pictures and stuff. And so they were like, hey, man, your boy is walking around the mall by himself with his girl. He's like, because Tech don't realize he's famous. That's a thing. Like, he'll just be doing him, and I'll be like, hey, bro, like, you can't just do that. So the homie's like, man, what you want us to do? I was like, just stay with him and keep an eye on him. And I called him like, hey, man, you know, the Crips that are following you around are with me, bro. You good, you know? And we like, do your thing. He was like, I was wondering about that. I'm like, yeah, it's the homies. Everything is good, blah, blah, blah. My boy Gigi Rose and his homies are the ones who did that for me that day. So they kept Tech straight, got him outside, walked him to his car with his girl and shit. This nigga buying jewelry and shit. Like, bro, what are you doing, you know? So they got him, walked him to his car. Tech went and did their thing, you know? And then I linked up with him at the Aria. We got some good food, had some good energy. And then like probably 2 or 3 weeks later, Tech called me and was like, man, my partner's coming to Vegas. And he's like, I don't care what he tell you. He's coming to Vegas to see you. And tell him what you need, what you want. I want you with me, man. I need you with me, man. I gotta have you with me. I was like, all right. And he just calls all the time. I mean, all the time. First thing this morning, it's just always something. You know what I mean? Checking in, making sure my spirit is good. How am I feeling? Do I need anything? A very, 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 very dope big brother. That's what it is. And so, yeah, Trav came and we had our dialogues, blah, blah, blah. And I signed Strange Music, got my chain at Red Rocks, and it's been up ever since. We've been cooking, and they gave me this guy, and he's been hooking me up, taking care of me, man. Nice. It's been beautiful.
That's dope. All right, so talk to us about Sunken Place and the Get Out concept and how that all came about.
So the Sunken Place, for me, tied into being a West Coast MC and those who were storytellers. And yeah, I felt like that's a necessary component to be what I want to be as an elite writer, and to be considered elite rhyme writer by others. So I wanted to, there's a lot of stories on this album, but that particular one was informed by my experiences being someone in prison who was making up a life and envisioning what life would be like outside of prison once I knew I was going home. And I didn't know I was doing that. And so once I came home, I had to come to terms with the fact that a lot of things I believed about life, about relationships, about love, that a lot of these things were figments of my imagination. And because of that, I was in circumstances that didn't fit with what I wanted for my long-term life. And so I had to make decisions for how to remove myself from those circumstances. And it wasn't easy. And I think it really not so much directly personal, although I drew from personal stories, but a lot of the sunken place came from discussions with other formerly incarcerated men who came home to relationships where they already had children. You want to have children, but you know, maybe it's too late, or a lot of different things in these conversations that we had where you give up a lot of stuff to be able to, and then you say, well, I would like to do some of these things for myself that I never got to do. And how does that impact people who love you and who wanted something for you or with you that they imagined? Right. And now maybe you're not what they imagined you to be either, and you know, and maybe not what they want. Yeah. And so it's very tricky being in relationships where, you know, you got a 10-year run in prison and you come home and you guys don't even know each other. Mm-hmm. You don't know each other. And you don't have the same values, you may not want the same things, and you don't find that out until you're in the thick of it. Gotcha. And so I think that's what I used the story of the sunken place and Get Out to illustrate, you know, that formerly incarcerated men who come home and get into, they have maybe even family relationships, not even just with the woman, mm-hmm. that they have to untie. Mm-hmm. They got to get out. Mm-hmm. They got to get out, or be in the sunken place.
Right. Yeah. No, that's dope. I like that concept. I know you mentioned Rakim earlier, and I heard his album. How'd you get on his album?
So I'm good friends with M80, and I frequently say that relationships are superior to money. Mm-hmm. That humans are more important than dollars. Mm-hmm. And if you got the right humans, you always gonna have dollars anyway. Mm-hmm. The dollars come from people. Right. People don't come from dollars, and the right. people that come because of dollars might not be the people you want anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I got this great relationship, and he was curating that project, and he just was like, oh yeah, my boy X, I gotta have my boy X on here. And so I get the track, and I'm like, Prodigy, Method Man, you know what I mean? I was like, what? You know what I mean? The boy from QB on there. I'm like, this is a big deal. And so, beat by Rakim, outro by Rakim on Rakim's first project in 15 years. So I just went crazy. I just was like, I sat down, I wrote my verse, I started working on it, picking it apart, putting it back together, burying metaphors and similes in there, mm-hmm. all those O's, mm-hmm. first round, overall draft pick, I was chosen, roll with a circle of ominous men, call us the Omen, mm-hmm. Ozzy Osbourne, you know what I mean? I did a lot of that inside of that verse because it's for Rakim, so I'm using every device available to be able to just have the OG say, here we go. Mm-hmm. So when he was like, X-Rated takes you on a lyrical journey, mm-hmm. on the Sign of Seven last song, and I didn't even know that was Rakim posting that. Okay. So like I opened my social media up and I saw it, but I thought it was my post. Okay. So I just kept scrolling. I looked and it said the God MC. I was like, what the fuck? I hit the button and it was Rakim. Mm-hmm. Put me front and center to say this is some dope shit right here, and I just was like, come on. Bro, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Mm-hmm. That's one of those things when I say God will just bop me on the nose sometimes. That was crazy. Yeah. My inner hip hop kid has been having fun, man. Yeah. You know, got to hang out with Be Real. Like, you serious? I used to be rolling around. Me and my boy Meek used to just be slapping, go. We just be rolling, and so it's like I'm sitting here with him, and I'm like, bro. I'm like, I need a picture of you. He was like, all right. His spirit is so dope. MC8 last night, just hanging out with 8, chopping it up about music, chopping it, just vibing. Like my inner hip hop kid is very happy right now, man. It's just dope. Yeah, so that Rakim look came from M80, and it's just a big thing for me, man. I have met Rakim with Tech prior to that, maybe a year before.
Okay.
So like being able to be on that song was just a full circle moment for me.
That's major.
Yeah.
That album slaps.
Thank you.
For sure,
It's dope. They went crazy.
Yeah, hell yeah. So a few more questions. Who are your top 5 MCs of all time?
Oh man, wow, that's a loaded thing. Top 5 all time. I've always had this process because I don't think it's fair, so I have eras more than I've had a list of all time, because I think Ice Cube is number 1. And then people would argue, well, that was an era, he was number 1 for that period of time, but did he stay number 1? You know what I mean? And I've been in these debates about that. Why, to me, there ain't none of the rest of this shit with no Cube. You know what I mean? We joking. They put people above Cube. They wrote their raps because of Cube.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're doing that because our elders, we only culture that punishes our elders for becoming elders.
Right.
It's insane.
Yes, that's crazy.
They don't do that. They gonna roll Mick Jagger ass out there in a wheelchair to play them songs. You know what I mean? Aerosmith. They don't do that to their own. Paul McCartney will come out in a walker and bust a song. They showing up outside.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but here we are. We because of time, Ice Cube ain't the motherfucker.
Yeah, he's
like, come on, man. So Ice Cube is Ice Cube, Scarface. We're not gonna play with Rakim. I get those 3 out the way. I gotta have Pac. My shit is dumbass Westy. You know what I mean? Rakim show up, but my shit is Westy. So I got Cube, I got Scarface from the South, I got Rakim, I got Tupac, and then man, I'd have to think about my 5th. I'd have to give that some real thought, but that's my side. That's a 4 for sure.
That's a solid 4.
Yeah, yeah. I could come up with another one. It's a few honorables.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my top 4 for sure.
You mentioned LL. You know what I mean with that?
Yeah, that's who I was just thinking about. I was thinking about LL from my era and what it meant for my life. I feel like LL would have to be on my list. I think it got to be Ice Cube, Scarface, Rakim. I need Tupac and I need LL Cool J, and I feel like I can live with that.
That's a solid 5.
And if I got everybody in their prime, I feel like I could run up on anybody's 5 with that.
Anybody.
Yeah.
I think so, for sure. So you got a project dropping tomorrow. You want to tell us a little bit about that, some of the features?
Yeah, man, I got a Sin in Heaven. It's about my experience going from a prayer in hell, which was me. I didn't have a prayer in hell to get out, but also I said a prayer in hell, and my prayer got answered, and I came to my heaven society, and some of the decisions necessary. I have a couple sins in heaven, you know, and so the album is a journey through my sin in heaven. The coming home and understanding that I had to detach from some stuff, that I had to change my life for real and learn what I'm really experiencing. And I'm getting closer and closer to that, especially as I run into more people who've been able to mentor me through this process. But yeah, that's what that album's about. I'm blessed to have Raz Cass, King Crook, Tech Nine. Man, I got Locksmith, who I'm a huge fan of, and that's my brother. You know, I call him and we talk. You know, if I need some advice, I call him and pick his brain. He's a highly intelligent human being. Yeah, not just a dope MC, but a highly intelligent. All the Jedi are. King Crook is the same type. He can go anywhere. We were talking about Ethiopian Bibles and what the text said, and Papyrus 47. I had that conversation with a rapper, right? Because he's a Jedi, and the information required to be able to do what they can do, you know, they're accumulating some stuff mentally and psychologically. So very honored to have him, Lock. Yeah, it's some dope features on there, really good placements.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm proud of the album. Really proud of it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
For sure. Yes, sir. And what's one piece of advice that you would give to, you know, anybody that's grinding in this space, looking to come up in this space, or has been grinding and still trying to make it? Like, what's one piece of advice to keep them motivated?
I would say that you don't know how close you really are, and almost everybody's too far to turn around. Like, keep going. Even if a person has to, like, people face real issues. Bills are real. Life is real. Children are real. Family issues are real. So it's like, afford yourself a space to be able to continue to do what you want to do, and do what you have to do in order to afford you to do that, until you can just dictate what you want to do, which will come one day. But I would say for people is that just keep going. If it's your passion, keep going. Build catalog and release it. Sitting in the computer ain't gonna do nobody no good. Like, run it and see what happens. And that's what I got for people. I want them to keep going, man. Yeah. If I could survive a life sentence and be sitting here with you doing this interview, man, they gotta know. Come on, man. Keep going. Keep going.
That part, for sure. And any, other again, I know this project is dropping, but in terms of tours, anything like in the near future that we can look forward to?
So I've been real strong with my nose. So I'm not sure, I kind of wanted to wait and then say, okay, what y'all think, what we doing? So I got a few things in the irons in the fire right now. I got some opportunities for some shows, for a tour. I'm definitely working on the Block Movement project. We got the first song already knocked out. Me and Bo been sending songs back and forth. So me, C-Bo, Brother Lynchong, T-Nutty, Bleezo, Looney Coleon, and all of our associates to do a Block Movement 2 project correctly. That's kind of where I'm at in setting up what that deal will look like and feel like. I got about 3 different executives that we're talking to about that. There's no doubt that we have a home for it. It's about figuring out which circumstance is best for all of us, and then the tour that goes for that. So I'm kind of jumping right into that. And then I got another secret group project that I'm working on with some OGs. Okay. That's gonna be fun when that come out. People figure out that we're doing that. Okay. And so yeah, I'm definitely gonna do shows, but I feel like I make a specific amount of money staying in my house with my babies. And if I'm gonna do the same thing as what I would do if I stayed in the house with my babies, then I'm definitely gonna stay in the house with my babies.